Hi everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. You're welcome to another segment on ancient and modern. Yeah, for a few days I've not posted any video for some personal reasons. Now today we're going to be talking about fire making, lighting of fire in the ancient times. Most of us already know, I'm sure, from history, what you were taught in school, and some have even practicalized it. Okay, so in the olden days, we all knew from the beginning of time there was nothing like matchbox, for making fire. There was nothing like stove lighter, gas cooker lighter that we have now, the stick. There was nothing like that. And they only had one source of making fire, and that source of making fire is friction from the rock. Okay, that was how they used to make fire. They used to make fire with friction from the rock. If you did physics in school, you know what I'm talking about. When they rub two rocks together, and they had specific rocks, the kinds of stones that they were using to be able to gather fire easily. They had skilled men back in the days, so they used to rub two stones together. While they are rubbing, embers fall, and then they were using very dry grasses, and some other highly flammable things. Like in my tribe, they have this fiber from the palm fruit nuts, fiber that they get from the palm fruit. After processing, getting out the oil from the palm fruit, they have fibers that are left. So those fibers, when they dry them, they're very flammable, okay, or inflammable. So when they rub the rock together, in the process they do it close to the dry grass or to the dry fiber. They're very close. When they are rubbing them together, you see the light start sparkling, and then it starts sparking some light, and the light start falling off, some like embers. Once they fall onto those grasses, they fall on them, they start, they light the grasses, and they start smoking. It just catches fire. That's how they used to make the fire. When the embers of the pieces of the embers, when they fall on the dry grasses or the dry fibers, they start burning, and from there they will make the fire. They bring firewood, sticks, straws, put them together and make fire. When they put the straws and the sticks, straws, they start with straws because straws are highly, they easily get, they easily burn. They put them together, then put the firewoods, and with time the fire becomes full blown. Okay, that's how they used to make fire. It's not easy. It's a big deal. So the question I used to ask myself that made me go searching for answer is because the question is this. Why I kept asking myself, the question is this: since it was not so easy for them to light fire or to make the fire, how were they managing? Because back in the days, there was nothing like refrigerator to preserve the food, or freezer. So they needed the fire in the morning, afternoon, and evening, because that was how they lived back in the days. In the morning, they make fire, they cook, you know. Sometimes when they have leftover, because basically a big family will always have leftover food. So how were they preserving them? We're still going to talk about that. So in the morning, they heat up the food, have their breakfast. Then in the afternoon, they also heat up the food again. That's how they used to preserve the food. They heat up in the morning, afternoon, and evening. So, in other words, they make fire morning, afternoon, and evening. So I kept asking myself, how were they doing that? How were they coping since they had to struggle to make that fire? Okay, the answer came. My mom actually helped me with this answer. And I read a book. I've been trying to look for that book. I lost it. I read a book written by a man from the Western world, a white man. I read the book. When I finished reading, when I asked my mom this question, the same answer she gave me was what I read from the same book that a colonial, I won't call him a colonial master. He was among the colonial people in the 19th century, 19th and 20th century in Africa. He wrote the book. Exactly the description he gave in the book was what my mother gave me. It's a petition, not really a book per se, not a book with a title. Whenever I get it, I'm going to still talk about it. So she told me that when they make the fire, they make fire in the lobby. They used to have mud huts, mud houses in those days. So there used to be big lobby. Now we may call it sitting room, living room, Then they used to have a big lobby, the first room in the house. When you walk in, she told me it's always spacious, very free. At the center of the lobby is where they make the fire with big logs of wood. So when they make the fire and it becomes fully blown, in the evening when it's cold, everybody gathers there to feel warm, to keep warm when it's cold season. They leave it there. They leave the fire there to keep smoldering. They don't put it out. It keeps smoldering 24/7. But it is safe because it's a mud house, mud floor, mud house, mud walls, and they don't put things close by. So they didn't have any fear of fire flaring. So that's how they preserve the fire. They keep it smoldering with live coals, with the big logs of wood. So every other person in the compound or in the clan or in the kindred, any other family who doesn't have or which doesn't have fire in their own house, they always went to the house of the man that has the fireplace. They'll go there and fetch fire. In the afternoon, if they want to cook, each time they wanted to cook, they went there. They went to the house of any man that has fireplace in his house, in his lobby. They went there to fetch fire with straws. Or sometimes they go there and fetch a log of the wood with smoldering, with the live coal on it. They take it to their houses and then make fire out of it. If it's a big log, they'll take it back. If it's a small log of wood, they can just keep it in their house. So that's how they used to sustain, the fire. So after getting it from the friction from the rock, they make a big bonfire, at the center of the lobby of the house. And then they leave it there to keep smoldering all week. In the evening, they make it come alive and then put out the flame when they're going to bed. But they just let the fire keep smoldering all week. So that's how they used to make the fire. Each time they need a fire, either they use a straw to go for the fire, or they go with something else to get a live coal from the fire, or they pick a log of wood from the fire to make their own fire. So that's how they used to do it. So in the evenings, when it's time to warm up food, because most people, not almost everybody, then every evening, in the evening, they warm up food for dinner. So they make fire then. And after making fire, they put out the fire. In the morning, they make fire. In the afternoon, they make fire. So 3 times a day. But some of them, they say if they make fire in the afternoon or in the night, and the following morning, sometimes they get lucky. The live coal still remain hot, and live. So they blow it. They use some, breeze. They blow the live coal and make it come alive. Then they put some more straw and then put firewood to bring it up again. If they are lucky. But if it's not there anymore, they gotta go to the house that has the smoldering fire and fetch. Okay, that's it for today. That's how they used to make fire and how they used to sustain it. Because it's not easy. It's not every day you keep rubbing stones to make fire. Okay, so then it was even the young men that used to make the fire. When they want to start the fire with stones, with the friction, the young men were the ones who were always doing it. So that's how they used to make fire and sustain it, and preserve it for future use. They always had a fireplace in the lobby, more like having a fireplace in your living room now. So they always had a fireplace. That's why they used to sit around, warm themselves up, tell some stories, the elders, the family, the head of the family and the children. Tell some stories before they go to bed, some folk tales. Okay, so I hope this is beneficial to someone. I know some of you already, this. You might know how to make the fire, but how they used to sustain it, you may not have known. You may still have known. But this is the major way, especially from where I come from, in Africa, Igbo land, in Nigeria. This is how they used to do it. This is how they used to do it. They used to have a big lobby in the house. That's where they have a fireplace. Okay? Unlike now that in the lobbies, in the sitting rooms, you have chairs, you have upholstery chairs, they try to furnish everywhere. But then, no, it wasn't like that. They used to have the fireplace at the center. And in front of the house, they used to have a mud bed, a bed that they make out of mud. It's static from mud. They make it like a bed. And then they put a mat on top of it, a covering mat, where people sit to look out. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, stay blessed till you see me again in my next video. Enjoy. Bye.